So as we have been studying in the Mahayana Sutra Alamkara, that these teachings are very realistic teachings, and they will be extremely helpful in one's life. Whether you become a Buddhist or not is a personal issue. Whether you aspire to achieve Nirvana or enlightenment, that's also another issue. But these teachings are relevant in our day-to-day life. For example, right now we are talking on the topic of taking refuge, and where I have briefly mentioned that as an individual we cannot solve all our problems. We do get constant threats in our life, be it sickness, be it aging, be it death, be it separation from one's dear friends and relatives. So many problems are bound to come. Maybe it's a pandemic, maybe it's a war, whatever, things are bound to come. So during such tragedies, if you are somebody who right from the beginning has this understanding and acceptability, then in life many different things come. And accordingly, if you really remain prepared, then it will really help you. Of course, I'm not saying that you as one individual can immediately transform and change the world. That is not possible. But at least we should, as individuals, number one, make a plan as much as possible with others so that we do not have to face many of these man-made problems that we see in the world. Be it pandemic, it's related to human misadventure. Be it war, of course, it's related to human beings. So we all have the responsibility to ensure that the world we live in is peaceful, the community we live in is peaceful, and especially that the innocent children do not have to suffer. Okay, so that is our responsibility. If you are good parents or good elders, then it's our responsibility not only to think about oneself, but also think about the innocent, younger coming generation, that they have the right to be happy and peaceful. And sometimes because of our egoistic attitude, because of our misadventure, we are not able to benefit the masses. We may only end up doing self-serving activities. So therefore, whoever we are, we have a responsibility to play a role so that we are able to contribute to the well-being, harmony, and happiness of others as much as possible. We don't have to wait for the decision of a powerful leader or things like that. In our own level, we can create that atmosphere of peace, harmony, friendship as much as possible in different times. So on practical level, these are relevant, these are very important, because at the end of the day, unless you have a method of solving problems by correcting your mental attitude, then the harmony and peace will not just come like that from external situations. So how much difficulty will be there, how much problem will be there? It's not just the external condition, but it is also dependent upon one's own mental perspective. So Buddhist teaching is primarily preparing a positive mental outlook, outlook or perspective. So that I think is very important, because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, one has to look after oneself. One should have the capacity to make the better and the community and the society a better place to live in, right? At least you should make a commitment that whoever comes into contact with me, I will as much as possible try to, contribute towards their well-being, peace, and so forth. So that is possible. That is something that we can do. So that's important. Okay, so there is no point to get like dejected or lose hope. As I said, although we may not be able to change everything, but we can change ourselves, and we can change and contribute towards the surrounding in which we are living. Okay, whatever be the situation. If we lose hope and complain each other and do nothing, then everybody will suffer. Okay, so even in the most difficult situation, by instilling hope, harmony, and happiness, we can encourage each other and make others happy also. Okay, so that's important. So with regard to the teaching on this topic of taking refuge, we are reading now verse number 7, where, accepting, taking refuge is now again explained with the example of a reliable minister. Because like a great minister, because like a great minister will engage in transcendence, because will forever see the teaching harmonious to the side of great enlightenment, because will properly and always hold the three aspects of the three sagricies, because will properly ensure forever the non-ceasing of the varied purpose of sentient beings. So anyway, I've tried to just translate almost like verbatim with the Tibetan words, so it may not make much sense. But the thing is, the taking or accepting, taking refuge is explained to a great minister, a reliable minister. Now, if that minister is a reliable minister, the king will not have any worry if the minister moves among his queens, because he will not engage in any wrong things, right? Right? And then because the minister is somebody who you can trust. So there's the first meaning, because like a great minister will engage in the transcendence. Engage means basically when he engages and goes around the host of queens, the king doesn't have to worry. Okay? So that is engagement. And then he is also trustworthy. If the minister is trustworthy, then he will let the minister visit all his, treasure houses. Okay, treasures of gold, silver, whatever. He doesn't have to worry with that, minister who is trustworthy. If it's a greedy minister, cunning minister, then of course he cannot let his minister visit his treasure houses. And then he can also share his secrecy. He will not just proclaim that secret things to everybody. And similarly, you can also empower that minister to share a part of his wealth and possession also. So like that great minister, a bodhisattva who has reached the 10th spiritual level, like that minister, engage in the transcendence means he has engaged in the 10 wisdom perfections, 10 perfections. Transcendence is here means engaging in the transcendence means engaging in the practice of the 10 perfections. Okay. Then like a minister that can be trusted, he will also engage in the practice of the 37 limbs to enlightenment. Will forever see the teaching harmonious to the side of great enlightenment means basically talking about the practice of the 37 limbs to enlightenment, as is shown in the sutras. Meaning that he will look at it, look at the 37 limbs to enlightenment, and he will understand their meaning as it is taught, and he will not forget the meaning. Okay? And then likewise, just like a minister who can be trusted with secret words, these bodhisattvas on the 10th spiritual ground will also continuously uphold the secrecy of the exalted body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. Right? And then likewise, he will also engage in benefiting many sentient beings, giving them temporary benefit and long-term well-being. And he will do that for many lives to come without any interruption. So therefore, he is like a great minister, because we'll properly and always hold the three aspects of the three sagricies. Now it's clear, I think. Will properly ensure forever the non-ceasing of the varied purposes of sentient beings. Varied purposes of sentient beings means they are temporary benefit and long-term benefit. Okay. Then we have verse number 9, which talks about his special realizations. Will actualize great heaps of merit. That means in terms of his realization, that Bodhisattva will have a lot of interest and aspiration to this Mahayana teaching, and therefore will actualize great heaps of merit. Merit is very clear. He will be able to collect great heaps of merit. Okay, and then become the Lama of the three existences. Become the Lama of the three existences means as and when you generate bodhicitta, then you become the true Lama of the three realms. You know the word Lama? Lama means somebody who is superior. Superior. Many people who do not understand the exact meaning, they think all the monks are lamas. That is not true. So normally in the Tibetan society, we call all the reincarnates as lamas. And also those senior teachers who are qualified, we call them lamas, which means superior beings. So technically speaking, superior person is somebody who cares the well-being of others more than oneself, and who cares for the next life more than this life. So now when you look in this way, then a fully qualified Lama is not very easy to get. Okay, so it's only when you have these practices, these qualities, then you are really a true Lama. So whether you use the Tibetan word Lama or the Hindi word Guru, the Hindi word Guru means somebody who is heavily laden with knowledge, somebody who is highly qualified. And in terms of the literal meaning of the word Guru, Gu means ignorance, Ru means removal. So that means true Guru or true Lama is somebody who helps you remove your ignorance. Okay. So become the Lama of the three realms and will actualize the happiness of existence. That means when the Bodhisattva reaches the first two paths, the path of accumulation and path of preparation, then intentionally he will be able to cultivate anything that he wants to cultivate, and therefore he will be able to actualize that happiness of the existence, actualize the happiness of existence, actualize the happiness within the samsara. Now, in our ordinary case, we may want many things, but we don't achieve it, right? So in their case, when they develop, certain attitude, they're able to fulfill it, they're able to have it. And gradually, when he reaches the first spiritual ground out of the 10 spiritual ground, and then he develops this realization, which is called seeing oneself and others as equal. And because of this, he will be able to, the great heaps of suffering will be pacified or dissipated. So that means when you reach the first spiritual ground, and then you develop this realization of seeing oneself and others as equal, and because of that realization, you are able to remove the great heaps of suffering. This is, I think, a very important statement. When you're able to see yourself and others equal, you see. Ordinarily, of course, we are not able to see that. In our case, oneself is the primary focus. Others are side business, or we may not care about them at all, right? So that's the problem. There's the problem everywhere. There's the problem. I have been telling this many times. Not only this is explained in Buddhism, but even when we talk about some of the scientific findings, the very concept of, geocentric world, that the earth is center and the sun and others are moving around the earth. There was no proper scientific explanation with that, but simply according to some mythology and some, spirituality or something, people said it. The reason is the earth must be centered because we human beings are here on the earth. We live on the earth. So that is the most important. So others should become satellite and move around us, including the sun. But then gradually it was found that it is heliocentric and not geocentric. So from that it shows clearly, how strong the self-grasping is. That's how we think. Now, if you, take this point further, then every country thinks that I'm right, others are wrong. This is what is happening right now. Russia says he's right, NATOs are wrong, Americans are wrong. NATOs and Americans are saying they are right, Russia is wrong. I mean, and then gradually it will all come to, the concept will become narrow and narrow. It's very important to understand this. For example, on a good, happy day, we can talk about world peace. So it looks like you are really caring much about the rest of the world. And if there are some problem starts, then you don't talk about world peace, but you talk about your own country. Then even within your country, if there's a problem between states, then you will talk about your own state, not about the other states. Then within your state also, if there's a problem, then you talk about the different localities, different communities, and you will, try to speak highly of the community in which you live. Then gradually, if you narrow it down further, it will come to different families in that community. And if there is a misunderstanding about different families, different neighbors, then you will try to defend your family as the right one, correct one. Okay, the rest are stupid, the rest are wrong. And then within your family also, normally you will say, oh, I love my mother so much, I love my father so much, I love my sister so much. But when there is a problem among the family members, then you will say, father, sorry, you are wrong, I'm right. Mother, sorry, you are wrong, I'm right. So at the end of the day, you defend only yourself. You see, that's the problem. That's the problem. So for a practitioner, for a spiritual practitioner, or even otherwise, for one's happiness and peace and harmony, it's really, really important to think more about others and less about oneself. And that is not doing any sacrifice. It is good for you in the long run. The more you think about just about yourself, the more you will get a problem because your focus becomes narrow. I spoke about this repeatedly many times. This is so important, right? Because the very concept of I and mind that we think about doesn't have a solid foundation. The I that you speak so highly about is basically a designation. And when you're asked to show and demonstrate and pinpoint that I, you are unable to do that. Even very clever people, they've been trying to do this for many, many centuries in all philosophical traditions all over the world. Still, it's not very clear. The only thing that is visible is this physical body. Then with that body, we talk about mind based on some of our experiences and feelings, but mind again is invisible force. We are not able to pinpoint it, but at least we are now talking about two things, body and mind. Apart from these two, body and mind, when we talk about the I, it is very elusive. It is very slippery notion, right? So why you are developing so much, grasping to this so-called I, which is slippery, which is changing all the time, right? Why you are developing so much attachment, obsession to this? So if you think carefully, properly, there is really not much reason to develop so much obsession. That does not mean to say that you should not take care of yourself. Yes, you should take care of yourself, but without this tight grasping and tight obsession. That's important. So that's why this line I think is very, very interesting for me at least. Right? Okay. Kawan dia sudah. And then when you reach the eighth spiritual level out of the 10 spiritual grounds, then you develop this realization of forbearance with the non-production of all phenomena. And because of this, you will able to spontaneously develop the primordial wisdom of non-conceptuality. And it is this way that you are able to actualize that supreme bliss, immeasurable, actualize the happiness of the supreme mind. That is the meaning. Okay. The great heaps of suffering will be dissipated, which I have already explained. And then next, actualize the happiness of the supreme mind. So that means when you actualize this, reach the eighth spiritual ground, then you develop this non-conceptual primordial wisdom. And of course, that also effortlessly, spontaneously, and therefore you're able to actualize that supreme mind. And when you finally get enlightened, become Buddha, then you become the source of many teachings. Source of many teachings means whether it's Sutra or Tantra or Vinaya, whatever, the source is, of course, the Buddha, right? Because he knows everything now. So he is really the source of all the teachings. Will become the source of many teachings, will become the best and the supreme, and will become permanent Buddha and possess immeasurable virtues. That means not only all these teachings come from you, and because of perfection of all these teachings, that you also perfect in terms of eliminating anything that has to be eliminated, realizing everything that is to be realized, and the ordinary psychophysical aggregate does not exist anymore, and therefore this body now is called the permanent body. Okay, permanent body. That is the meaning. Supreme and will become permanent body, and possess immeasurable virtues. Immeasurable virtues means the 10 powers, 4 fearlessnesses, and host of other virtues will be possessed at that level. And will eliminate imprints and will actualize the state of liberation from existence and peace. So that Dharmakaya, of course, is free from the 2 obscurations with the imprints. So there's the meaning. Will eliminate imprints means will eliminate the 2 obscurations with the imprints. And because one has removed both the obscurations, you are, of course, liberated from samsara. Therefore, you have actualized the state of liberation from existence, means from samsara, because you've removed the 2 obscurations. And at the same time, your sublime activity will effortlessly flow and continue. So therefore, you are also liberated from the solitary peace. So if we borrow the Mahayana term, then that state is called non-abiding nirvana. You neither abide in the extreme of samsara, nor abide in the solitary peace or liberation just for oneself. Verse number 10. Verse number 10 is talking about certain overwhelming features. The intelligent here means the intelligent bodhisattva. The intelligent bodhisattva overpowers the host of sarvakas and also Partika Buddhas. How that intelligent bodhisattva overpowers the host of sarvakas and Partika Buddhas? They are overpowered by its extensive virtue. Primarily the virtue that is based on cultivation of bodhicitta, which is not there in the sarvakas and Partika Buddhas. And how does that great extensive virtue is accumulated? Here in this case, it depends on different spiritual levels. Okay. Great virtue, sarvakas by extensive virtue, great purpose, inexhaustible and constant unceasing quality. So great purpose means when, in terms of the feature, special feature of those virtues, when you're on the first 2 paths, and then you accumulate certain worldly virtue motivated by bodhicitta, extensive bodhicitta, okay, extensive bodhicitta. So that's called immeasurable virtues, okay. Then when you reach the first spiritual ground, then you are able to develop certain transcendental qualities, beyond worldly qualities, which means the development of primordial wisdom, which is beyond worldly. And again, as we explained earlier, you are able to develop that primordial wisdom, which sees oneself and others as equal, and therefore you are able to fulfill a great many purposes of oneself and others. Right? The virtue will also thoroughly measure great purpose. So that is a great purpose. The great purpose, there's the meaning. Inexhaustible. From the second spiritual ground to the seventh spiritual ground, the Bodhisattva is able to obtain infinite qualities of perfections, which is almost like everlasting, and therefore he is able to mature the mind of many sentient beings. Right? Constant, inexhaustible. Number one, inexhaustible qualities. And constant, unceasing quality means that Bodhisattva from the second to the seventh ground will continuously be able to help other sentient beings and help them mature, ripen their mind. Thoroughly mature what is immature. And during the last three spiritual ground, which is called the three pure spiritual levels, then the Bodhisattva has untoldable virtuous qualities. Because of the power of those virtuous qualities, one is able to then gain control over the non-conceptuality and so forth. Okay. And that at that level, when you gain that kind of power and control, then unlike the Sarvakas and Patika Buddhas, because in the lower, philosophical tenet system, it is said that when you achieve that solitary Nirvana, then you cease to exist. Your psychophysical aggregate cease to exist, just like the, extinction of a butter lamp. But here it is not like that. The qualities will not cease. So therefore, the qualities are immeasurable qualities, virtues. Okay. Will eliminate the virtue will also be thoroughly measured what is immeasured by what is beyond worldly, and what is obtained will not be lost with pacification of the body. Okay, so this is what I'm explaining. Now we have verse number 11. Verse number 11 is talking about certain qualities that the Bodhisattva possesses. This is accepting the desire to actually have it, and that also should be understood as arising from compassion. So that means let me find out. So this verse number 11 is talking about the nature of the process of taking refuge in the Mahayana system. This is accepting. Means this wish to cultivate the bodhicitta. So this wish to cultivate the process of taking refuge. So he's actually defining the meaning of taking refuge. This is accepting with the desire to actually have it. That means taking refuge means having the desire to actually obtain Buddhahood. Okay? And that also should be understood as arising from compassion. That means the cause for developing such a process of taking refuge is also motivated by compassion. There's the meaning. And because of that, the fruit is, what is the fruit? The fruit is from that arises the all-knowing aspect. The fruit of such motivation and such process of taking refuge is that you are able to become Buddha. From that arises, that means as a fruit, as a result, what arises is the all-knowing aspect. That means the omniscient state of the Buddhahood. And what is the function? What is the job of such a mind? The purpose or function of such a mind is to benefit, bestow well-being without discouragement in hardships. So that means your now purpose is to try to benefit sentient beings forever, so that they are temporarily happy and without discouragement in hardship. That means it's easy to talk about helping all sentient beings, but when you actually take the steps to help others, then even benefiting one person is not easy. Okay, so therefore it is saying that you should not get discouraged. From that arises the all-knowing aspect. That means from that, as a fruit, you develop this mind, omniscient mind, and the purpose of that is to benefit all sentient beings, temporary benefit and long-term benefit, without discouragement in hardship. Means when you actually implement it, you do not get discouraged. That is important. And now, what is the process? What is the technique not to get discouraged? The technique, I personally feel that one of the most important techniques to not to get discouraged when helping others is to genuinely have that loving kindness and compassion to others. If you genuinely love somebody, I mean, especially without attachment, if you genuinely love somebody, even with the attachment, we can give the example. Even with attachment, when you genuinely love somebody, you are able to help that person much better. If you don't love somebody, and if you have to help somebody, it's not easy. Especially, for example, if you don't like somebody, then it will be very difficult to help. It is same, more or less similar individual, maybe in a similar situation. But because of your liking and disliking, because of your acceptance, your reluctance, because of your mental attitude, one is very easy, another is very difficult. If you get this opportunity to help somebody that you really respect, somebody that you really love, then you will very happily do it. So therefore, genuine loving kindness and compassion is the key. And when you have that genuine loving kindness and compassion, then as the Bodhisattvas do, they offer their eye to others. They take their eyes out. They offer their limbs to others very easily, because they care more about that other person than oneself. Now, you don't have to, we don't have to give the example of a Bodhisattva who is already on a good elevated spiritual level. But even if you take the example of ordinary, say, mother, right now in Ukraine, as you have seen many of these pictures, how much the mothers are sacrificing, right? Or people who love each other, how much they are sacrificing, you see? So you can see that. You can see that. And then without that love, without that affection, again, you see now, these days, you can see how much people are suffering, you see? So therefore, the genuine loving kindness and compassion, if you have it, many of your physical illnesses can also be lessened. I strongly believe in that. Okay, your physical problems, your mental problems, many of this can be, if not reduced completely. In many cases, of course, it depends on the strength of your loving kindness and so forth. But if your loving kindness is strong, you can really completely heal yourself. There are many stories like that. Now, even if you don't have that fully qualified loving kindness and compassion, even if you develop a kind of genuine loving kindness and compassion, it's good for you, it's good for many others. And it's the most precious thing that we need in our world today. For the well-being of other people, for the well-being of the planet, for the well-being of sentient beings. It's the most prized thing that we can have. And the interesting thing is, in order to develop these inner qualities, you need to simply make a little bit effort. Otherwise, it's all free. You don't have to go to market to buy it. You don't have to have hundreds and thousands of dollars. Nothing. I mean, so look at us, our situation, unfortunately, our plight. When there is an opportunity to develop these most important qualities, which is available free, we are hardly making any attempt. Whereas in the field of material accumulation, we are ready to work day and night. You are ready to join army and bomb and destroy others without hesitation, primarily because you are getting a salary. I don't think there is so much, the main reason, I don't think anybody really enjoys going somewhere and bombing and killing others. But you are compelled to do because you have been accepting that salary or pension or whatever. Right? Things like that. Right? So, as I repeatedly say, if you want genuine, long-lasting peace and happiness, then you must make an attempt to cultivate these inner qualities. If you cultivate these inner qualities, if you remain long, if you live for a long life, wonderful. If you die tomorrow, also wonderful. If you have many friends, also wonderful. If you have no friends, also it is wonderful. If you have a lot of money, it's wonderful. If you have no money, also it's wonderful. so, so this body itself really becomes a nirvana, a heaven, with that kind of attitude. Now, if this mind itself is all the time hungry and complaining and investing in developing all the negative emotions, then not only you will suffer terribly in this life, but you will also be the source of problems and difficulties for many innocent people. Right? So then what is the use of taking such a human life? So it is important for us to make this human life meaningful. That is our task in hand. Make our human life meaningful. Whether you know many complicated, sophisticated philosophical concepts or not, but if you practice some of these really perennial, universal human values, we can really make our life meaningful and bring peace and happiness in the mind of many people. Right? So that is really important. Hmm. Hmm. And then the another quality that you possess is it always possesses trusted qualities of all the yanas or vehicles for renunciation. Ah. That means you will then become somebody who is skillful in helping other sentient beings by showing all the three vehicles. It always possesses trusted qualities of all the yanas. For renunciation means if your purpose is to help others develop that mind of renunciation, but because people have different mental dispositions, you will not straight away give Mahayana teachings. Whichever of the yanas or vehicle is appropriate, skillfully you will teach those yanas for helping that sentient being develop their renunciation. So that is the meaning. What is obtained through gesture and suchness, this taking refuge of the intelligent is supreme. Now that means how you enter this path of taking refuge. The process that when you are on the first two spiritual paths, path of accumulation and preparation, and then the spiritual teacher or master, you obtain that process of taking refuge from your spiritual master through certain gestures. What is obtained through gesture, there's one way of cultivating, or taking refuge. So that is called the grosser process of taking refuge. But when you actualize the first spiritual ground, which you will recall that when you enter the first spiritual ground, you have also realized emptiness directly. And then the refuge that you take is something that you have taken because of your having obtained that ultimate realization, suchness. So therefore this is called through gesture and suchness. This taking refuge of the intelligent is supreme. So this taking of refuge means now, so far we have explained the 6 special qualities of an intelligent bodhisattva, how they take refuge. So if you follow this process of taking refuge, then this becomes the supreme, the best Mahayana process of taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So there's the meaning. Verse number 12, the last one. Again, talking about the greatness of the Mahayana process of taking refuge. By going into the process of taking refuge is of great purpose. That means in this process of Mahayana process of taking refuge, there is a great purpose. How? Because that one's host of immeasurable virtues will increase. That means in terms of time, because of your process of taking refuge, you cannot really actually measure it in time or in terms of number or in terms of just using logic. You will be able to develop immeasurable qualities, immeasurable virtues. That's for oneself. And for the benefit of others in terms of your mental attitude, thinking, you develop that compassion, aspiring that others are without suffering. And in terms of, and the compassionate thought will pervade these sentient beings. And in terms of actual practice, this far excels from the Sarvakas and Pratika Buddhas process of taking refuge. So therefore it's incomparable. And because of this will help you develop all the qualities of the Buddha and great Bodhisattvas. It will also make the incomparable Dharma of the great Aryas flourish. So that great Aryas means the great Aryas means those who have achieved the path of seeing in the Mahayana path, and therefore you're able to develop all these qualities of the superior beings or Aryas and then the Buddhas. It will also make the incomparable Dharma of the great Aryas flourish. So that completes third chapter. Now we read chapter 4. Chapter 4 is on lineage. The first verse: existence, supremacy, characteristics, signs, classifications of lineage, faults, advantages, and two types of examples, each with four aspects. So this is a summary of what we are going to explain under this topic of the Buddha lineage. Existence means it establishes that there are different, there exist different types of lineages. Supremacy means among these different lineages, why the Mahayana lineage is supreme. And characteristic or definition means the characteristics or definitions of the lineage. What do you mean by the lineage? And the science means the signs and symbols by which you can say that such and such person has the Mahayana lineage. And then types, different types of lineage. Okay. And then the faults. Faults means what are the obstructions for developing those lineages. Then benefits or advantages of having such lineages. And then this is explained with two examples. Number one is how to cultivate the common qualities, which is exampled with the explained with the example of gold. And then the process of cultivating uncommon qualities, which is explained with the example of precious gem. So this is kind of summary. Now in terms of a detailed explanation, more elaborate explanation, these 9 topics that we already explained in the summary, all this will be now explained one by one. First is to establish that there are different lineages. Okay, now when we talk about lineage, the English word, some uses the word family, some uses the word gene, some uses the word lineage, I don't know. So I am using just the word lineage. So lineage means, even in ordinary stance, there is the class or family of the kings, the family of Brahmins, the family of, there are different types of lineages. So similarly, when we talk about the achievement of Buddhahood also, we explain what kind of lineages are there. There are some who have lineage, some who does not have lineage, some who have very poor, lineage, things like that. So they are different. So this point, this verse is, establishing that there are different lineages. Now, the reason, since different dispositions. Now, if you look at sentient beings, their disposition, their interest is completely different and diverse. It's really amazing to find that. The emotions are different, the integrity is different, characteristics are different, physically different, mentally different, so much, differences are there. So there's the meaning, since different dispositions. So therefore, in terms of disposition, they are immeasurable, many, okay? Then in terms of interest also, right at the ordinary level, if you look at different people, you will see some people who may never have heard anything about the Mahayana teaching or anything like that. But as a kind of inborn quality, they will have different interest. Yes, I'm interested in Vinaya. Yes, I'm interested in Tantra. Yes, I'm interested in yoga. Yes, I'm interested to go for a walk, or I'm interested in sleeping. So there again, in terms of interest also, there are so many different interests, which is, sign of awakening of past lives imprints or whatever you want to call it. I personally met many people who maybe having their first exposure to Buddhist teaching. But as and when we explain a little bit, it's, oh, I'm very familiar. I like this teaching so much. This is what I've been thinking for a long, long time, you see, right? So that is, in terms of their basic nature, it is like that. There are different interests. Then also, when you gradually enter the spiritual path, and then due to different aggravating factors, even if you develop, let us say, interest in the Mahayana teaching, some will actually practice it. Even if you get the same opportunity, some will actually practice it, some will not practice it. Okay, so that means classifications of practice, differences of practice. Some will practice it, some will not practice it, even if you get the same opportunity. Then also in terms of the fruit, there are three ultimate fruits. That's why we talk about the three yanas. And different results here basically means the three yanas are observed. That is what we have seen, right? So therefore, existence of lineage must be affirmed, means must be established. There are different kind of lineages, so that must be affirmed. Verse number 3. Verse number 3. Verse number 3 is proving that the Mahayana lineage is the supreme lineage. Because when you rely or depend on this Mahayana lineage, and thereby when you develop certain virtuous practices, then those virtuous practices will become an antidote, a counterforce to both the obscurations to enlightenment and obscurations to afflictive emotions. So therefore, it far excels the Sarvaka and Pratika Buddha paths, because of the reasons that its virtue excels. It is for all. It is for all or everyone. It is for all basically means it becomes a cause for developing all the qualities like the 10 powers and so forth. And of great purpose means it fulfills the great purpose of oneself, not only oneself, but for others also. The fulfills the twin purposes of oneself and others. And non-cessation, which we have already explained, that even when you remove the ordinary psychophysical aggregates, but your qualities will not get exhausted and will not cease, and non-cessation. Therefore, it is called as the supreme lineage. Therefore, this Mahayana lineage is called supreme lineage. Okay. Next is the feature definition or characteristics of lineage. The natural and the developed. So there are basically two types of lineages. The natural lineage and developed lineage. The natural lineage basically refers to your natural capacity to become Buddha. It's already there, the capacity to become Buddha. Your mind, devoid of inherent existence itself, is really the natural lineage. Then in addition to this given natural lineage, if you engage in certain virtuous practices, then you will be able to further develop that, empower that, let it flourish. So that is called developed lineage. The developed lineage comes through practice, through study, through contemplation, through thinking, through meditation. Okay. The natural and the developed, these are the two, the basis and the dependent. So that natural lineage is the basis, and dependent on that, you develop the second lineage, which is called developed lineage. And that lineage is actually called the Tathagata Garbha. Okay. In Sanskrit, this lineage is called Gotra. Gotra means that from here you can develop certain qualities and you can get liberated. So that's why it is called the lineage. The natural and the developed, the basis and the dependent, existing and the non-existing. Existing and non-existing means that natural lineage is there as a cause. But non-existence means at that time, the actual qualification is not manifested. So there is no fruit in that sense. Okay. So in the case of the developed lineage, it has the basic quality and also quality as actualization or as a fruit. So, and its meaning should be understood as liberating, as I explained the word meaning of the word Gotra. So basically, lineage or Gotra means something based on which you can develop certain qualities and get liberated. So if you have that, then you have the lineage. So in our ordinary case, also you can see, due to past lives habits, some children, even when they're very, very small, they're very fond of killing insects. Yes, and when they see insects, they will either trample it, or they are not scared. Then there are others forget about killing them, just by seeing an insect, they will cry. They are very scared. So all these different habits we see depending upon in what area you are habituated. So that will also tell you a lot about what is your lineage. So one very good thing that I think you should do is most of us have, whether we are able to practice it or not is a different thing, but at least most of us have inclination to do something good, right? I mean, majority of the time, I think we have this inclination and the wish to do something good, speak nicely to people and try to help, those things are there. So this should be appreciated. This should be appreciated. Don't wait until you become enlightened or you develop all these bodhisattva qualities. But even at your very ordinary level, you're having this wish to help others, not to harm others. These are very, very important qualities which you already have, and you should be happy about that. And from that, you should see that you also have some kind of positive lineage, meaning that now if you make further effort, you have the capacity to really become good. And I've seen people who may not say that they are Buddhist or they are practitioners, but they are by nature amazing people, very kind-hearted, very cool, very peaceful. People like to go around them, walk with them, talk to them. Not only human beings, there are dogs also. Some dogs are like that. You see, so these are past lives habits, inclinations, which should be highly cherished. For others who don't have that habit, contrarily, if they have a habit of engaging in negative, destructive deeds, then even if you attend several Buddhist classes from highly qualified teachers, when it comes to personal transformation, it is an uphill task. It's really, really difficult. And here also, I may be included. I've seen people who have been studying the Buddhist philosophy for many, many years, and now among the group of scholars. But as a person, unfortunately, very unruly, very full of attachment, very greedy, not contented, And then you can see this great egoism based on one's knowledge, So these are clear indications that you never practiced to transform your mind, right? In Tibetan, we have a saying that we should not keep big gap between Dharma and yourself, meaning that Dharma is something to be read, and it doesn't touch your mind, then it will not help you. That's why it is said when you read Dharma text, it should be like you're seeing your face in the mirror. The purpose of your face, you're seeing your face in the mirror is to find out whether your face has any dark spots or any blemishes. And if there are some, then the purpose of seeing in the mirror is to see those blemishes and remove those dark spots and blemishes or the dirty spots. And if you don't do that, then purpose of seeing the mirror has not been fulfilled. So likewise, Dharma texts, teachings, they're like mirror. When it talks about the destructiveness of anger, it's not explaining anger in general, but it is talking about your anger also. And then you should see whether you have that anger or those other negative emotions or not. If it is there, then your task is to remove them, to eliminate them. Similarly, when it talks about compassion, you should see whether you have those compassions or not. If not, then it is your responsibility to take steps to cultivate those compassions, right? So unless you own those positive qualities, unless you remove those negative qualities, then you are not practicing Dharma. You're just reading text maybe, right? So when we talk about Dharma practice and spiritual practice, it should not be like studying mathematics. In mathematics, 2 + 2, 4, that's enough. It's not related for your personal transformation. It's not like that. The purpose of this Buddhist teachings is to refine yourself, to fight with negative emotions, because that is the only way to gain long-lasting happiness and peace. Okay, so we stop here today.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. So now we can ask some questions. The first question is from Nika, and actually I think that this is a request to maybe summarize a little bit what you already said, because she says, dear teacher, I'm very much scared. Could you please give an advice how to calm the mind and keep the inner balance in the present situation, and how can I help my loved ones to remain calm and to just maintain inner peace? And what should be rely on in Dharma? I would add from myself in this situation. So how Dharma could support us in this?
Not only in this situation, but in all situations. Although, of course, practice is not as easy as we say or speak, but as I repeatedly mentioned earlier, that the purpose of Dharma is to help you deal with all difficult situations. Now that means if you encounter a difficult situation, if your fear is helping you, if your developing fear is helping your friends and relatives, then have fear. But in many cases, it will not help you. It will further cloud your mind, confuse you, make you weak, vulnerable, and lose your appetite, lose your sleep. So it's not helping you. So therefore, to make a long story short, the Buddha's teaching, I can say, is the Buddha is always saying, do those things which is useful. In whatever situation, do those things which is useful, and don't do those things which is not useful. So if fear is not useful, worrying is not useful, Why should you do it? Because it's of no use at all. Like, for example, I'm going to die, definitely, right? One day, maybe tomorrow, whatever. Just by thinking, if I get worry, it will actually quicken my death, quicken the process of my death, because that will make my, health, ruin my health, lose my appetite, sleep, and so forth. So instead of thinking that, instead of developing fear and worry, do those things which is beneficial. Like as I said, even when in difficult time, try to share some, nice food, eat some food, And I've seen during this time also, for example, at the border, after crossing Ukraine, at the border, maybe Poland or somewhere at the border, I've seen some Ukrainian women playing guitar. Of course, it's a difficult situation, but at least she's trying to cheer up people, And then sometimes when everything is bleak and, almost hopeless, people feel happy when they see some sign of, people laughing and singing and dancing. And then I also saw this, Ukrainian couple, an army and his fiancée, amid this very difficult time in the battleground, they got married, you see. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever however difficult the situation is, try to see that silver lining, in that situation. It is possible because nobody can take your mind. Your mind is yours, right? So try to think about something that brings more peace, more happiness, right? If you think just about yourself, then you see all the problems. But you think about many other people. You may have many other friends in other countries also who are okay, peaceful. Think about that. At least they are happy. That's good. My friend there is good. So think. Don't just get lost with oneself alone. It's not easy. I understand, but there's no other solution. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. The next question is from Irina. Geshe-la, you mentioned that one person with the power of his mind cannot change the situation, say, in a city or in a town. But in Majjhima Nikaya, in Upali Sutra, it says, imagine if a hermit or a priest who has supernatural power, who kind of tamed his mind and is in full control of his mind, came here, and he would say thus, I will turn the city of Nalanda into ashes by a mere mental act of anger. Such a hermit or priest could turn 10, 20, 30, 40, or even 50 Nalandas into ashes by a single act of anger or evil will, let alone one Nalanda. How to understand such a response from the Buddha?
That I think just shows the mental capacity, the possibility to achieve many things. But in order to achieve such a state, you need to, number one, make a lot of hard work. Okay? Lot of effort. Like, for example, I mean, look at the situation between Tibet and China. Now, among Tibetans, I believe that there are a number of people who have achieved a very high state of spiritual practice. But when you achieve very high state of spiritual practice, you don't use that spiritual practice to destroy others, destroy the enemy. Number one. Number two, even if you're somebody who is highly qualified, not only highly qualified, even if you're a Buddha, it is said that the Buddha's power and the karma of sentient beings are equally powerful. That means unless there is also certain karmic link, you will not be able to change it. There is this story of a conflict happened somewhere in the battleground, and many were like getting killed in the battlefield. And then there was one who, believing and trusting the Buddha, it was his time. He came running to Buddha and he hid himself under the Buddha's begging bowl or something. And then it said after the battle was over, when there were many dead bodies, and when Buddha opened that begging bowl or something, that person who was hiding there is also found dead. So when your karma comes to an end, or when it is your karma not to come to an end, then even those powers can't do. But what you have read is just basically shows that you can achieve such a state. Basically talking about the possibilities of developing great many qualities of the mind. So probably it should not be literally read.
Thank you very much for this explanation, Geshe-la. The next is a very short question from Roman. He says, thank you very much for your teaching, dear teacher. Could you please tell us what is your main idam?
My main idam is Avalokiteshvara.
Thank you. Geshe-la, I just, there is another question. Actually, do you think that we know that the Tibetan people has been going through very difficult times for so many years? And do you think that you could share with us some of the experiences or maybe some examples of Tibetan people like keeping their compassion and their compassionate mind in this situation, in their difficult situation, something to encourage us to be like them?
Yes, I mean, Tibetans are not very, very special or unique. Yes, Tibetans may have certain benefits of having practiced Buddhism, but don't think Tibetans are very unique or very special. We all have the same capacity, okay? But then, of course, as you rightly mentioned, Tibetans did undergo this very difficult situation, and still we are experiencing that. So as I was saying, that when you actually encounter such hardships, the only way to console yourself and make you remain sane is by turning towards your inner qualities and developing them. So that's what we have found. That's what we have found. Like, for example, I told you earlier that there are stories of Tibetans who have remained in Chinese prison, some for 20 years, some for 17 years. And I told you these stories of one Namgyal senior monk, who, when his holiness escaped, he could not escape. So he remained in prison, I think, for 17 years. When he finally managed to come, I met him. I also helped him, go to hospital, things like that. So I know him. He has a bent body and always smiling, very kind. He remained in Chinese prison for 17 years. So one day His Holiness asked him to come and see him. So he was sitting with His Holiness, and then His Holiness asked him, since you remained in the Chinese prison for so many years, you might have encountered great many difficulties. So can you explain some of these great difficulties that you experienced? Then he said, yes, on one or two occasions, I experienced great difficulty, great risk. Then His Holiness thought it must be great risk to his life. And accordingly, he asked, was that risk to your life? He said, no. It was the risk of forgetting compassion for Chinese torturers. See? He was not worried so much about his problems, difficulty. He was worried about the torturers, thinking that now, because believing in the law of causality, law of karma, right now I'm suffering in the Chinese prison, but this person who is torturing me without any reason, he will have to experience all the negative consequences. Right? So he has been meditating on compassion, but sometimes his torture on him is so intense that he was facing this risk to lose this compassion for that torturer, you see. So that really helps. And there are others also who said that I had the best Buddhist practice when I was in Chinese prison. I mean, there is not to say that the Chinese prisons are comfortable with all the modern luxuries. Nothing. Even food is difficult. So many problems are there. But still, when you know how to maintain peace in your mind, how to maintain larger perspective, how to think about law of causality and things like that, there is a method, there is a possibility to calm down your mind and remain peaceful and use your life for many other good things. Right?
Thank you so much, Geshe-la. I'm sorry. I just would like to share my personal feeling. I think that today, having heard everything you said, I understand that for myself, really the self-cherishing attitude is the major obstacle, probably.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Geshe-la, I think that we are all very reluctant to let you go because we are so feeling so good in your presence. Thank you so much. But I think that our time's up, and maybe we could conclude this session with a prayer and dedication, please.
Sure. So recalling what is happening in Ukraine and also other places right now in the world, and not only human beings, many problems and sufferings are there among other sentient beings, which we may not know, which we may not even pay attention. So there are many who are suffering, who are having problems. So as I said, it is our task and responsibility to do something to minimize a little bit of their suffering or problem and bring a little bit of smile and happiness on their face. So with this kind of attitude, let us do this final dedication. And so when I repeat this line, when I say this line, you should just think about it. I'll say. May the precious bodhicitta, which you have not cultivated, be cultivated. Bodhicitta, as you know, is the wish to help all suffering sentient beings. So that is really the elixir which transforms ordinary, irons into gold. It's like that. May the precious bodhicitta, which I have not cultivated, be cultivated. And may the precious bodhicitta, which I have cultivated, never decline. And may it prosper further and further. May all parent sentient beings meet with happiness and always be free from suffering. May we be able to put an end to all kind of negative state of existences. And may all the prayers and the aspirations of bodhisattvas, wherever they are, be fulfilled. Thank you.